Hi students, today we will begin a project where we will be creating a cherry blossom branch. So we are going to be doing that using some black paint to create the branch. We are going to also use some oil pastels to create the blossoms on the end of the branch. But before we can do that, we will be creating a background that has warm or cool colors. So in order to start this project, we need a background. And for your background, you will start with a piece of white paper. You will also need a cup of water and a brush. And then you are going to select tissue paper for coloring, and you can either use cool colors or warm colors. Here, let me get some warm colors in there. Okay, but once you've made your choice between warm or cool, you got to stick with that choice. Before you can do any of that, though, we need to write our name on the back with a pencil. Okay, so now we're ready to add some color to the front. You can flip it over. It doesn't matter if you have it the wide way or the tall way, but what does matter is that once you choose your color scheme, you stick with it. So my color scheme is warm colors. Okay, so there I go with that. Now these tissue papers are tissue papers. They're called bleeding tissue papers. So when they get wet, they'll actually leave color behind on the paper. So that's how this works. The way I like to get this started is by simply wetting my paper. And you can wet it one section at a time, or you can wet the whole thing all at once. It's up to you. So all I'm doing is just kind of brushing back and forth to get that a little bit wet. Don't need to overdo it though. Okay, let me just go ahead and get the whole thing. Okay. Now I'm not trying to have big puddles on there, so notice how I am also trying to brush some of that extra water off the paper back onto the table. Okay, we just want it wet, we don't want it puddled. Okay. At this point, I can start adding some of my colors, and it's kind of this process of laying it down and then adding some water over the top of it. So I'll just show you this section right here. Actually, sometimes a little overlap can be a good thing. I'm going to rip that one in half just to fill up some more spaces. Okay, how do I want that one in there? Okay, so now that I've got a few pieces stuck down, then I want to really get them to stick by putting some water right over the top of it. So again, just to remind you, what we want is we want the color from the tissue paper to bleed onto the white paper underneath it. So this stuff is going to stick to the paper for now, but as it dries, it'll actually fall off and it will just leave some color behind it. It kind of gives it a watercolor effect. So I'm going to quickly go through the rest of this process. Okay, so now I have covered my background. I used warm colors only. And just as a reminder, I started by getting my white paper wet first. Of course, that's after I put my name on the back side. I laid my strips of tissue paper over the top. I chose warm colors, but you can choose cool colors if you would like. Once you make your choice, stick with it. And then what I did is I just gently brushed a little bit of water over the top of those so that they would lay down flat. We're going to put these on a drying rack to dry, and then as these dry, the tissue paper will actually just fall off of this, and then it'll leave behind a little bit of color for a background. And we will use this to create our cherry blossom project in the upcoming days.